Viewers, welcome back to the Self-Made Auto Channel. Here's our 2008 Chevrolet. It's actually a GMC, it's a Sierra. It's the 1500, it's just not as fun to say. It's got the big 5.3 Flexi in it, and the customer complaint is there's no turning signals on the left side of the vehicle, unless he puts a 30 amp fuse in the hole, in which case he's got a rear turning signal but nothing on the front, and then ultimately it fries that one. Had another shop, they chucked some parts at it, changed a few things, I think some multi-function switches and stuff like that. They put a fuse box in it and then got to the point where the truck wouldn't even run. So then they put the other fuse box back in it and put stuff back how it was. I asked them if they could just put it back as close to stock as it was when they received it, and then we'll take a look at it. So here we are, they put the fuse box back in it, left the used one in there. I think everything else works as it does, and at least the truck runs now. I did verify when he brought it in, the 15 amp fuse was put back in it. Of course, it was blown. I put a 15 amp circuit breaker in there so we don't keep blowing it, and turned the turn signal on, and indeed the rear one does seem to work, the upper and lower portion of the bulb. No blinking in the front, but as it's blinking, the one in the back, before it trips the breaker, you do see it dimming the lights down, so there is a pretty high current draw. At this point, I printed this out, some wire diagrams, and we have to come up with a plan of attack. I've got the battery maintainer on it, and we're gonna go from there. Let's see, we're gonna have a look at this diagram. Now, I think we're just gonna pay most attention to these front lights for the time being until something, dictates otherwise. So we got the left lower and the left upper. Now these are on the front, I believe. Yes, we're on the front controls. Oddly enough, in these diagrams, they do not show the fuse that feeds this body module that runs, these turn signals. I guess I could show you that. I guess it's probably neither here nor there, but just trust me, there is a fuse that feeds the body module that when it blows, and it's labeled left turn brake, I believe. So being the fact that when we look at the rear lights, which I've got them up here, so these are left stop, tail turn, left lower, left upper, they both function until the fuse blows, but the front there's nothing. So I assume our short is probably in the front. We need to come up with a plan of attack. I assume that, this wire out of the body control module comes out, and it's gonna be, I think this must be some different RPO codes, depending on what it has, which way this thing goes and which connectors it goes to in the underhood fuse box, which are just jumpers. It looks like it comes in on connector, X4 pin A1 and out on X1 A2. They look just like they're jumpers or splices, so it's kind of odd that it runs it through that fuse box and then out to this X100 connector, which is probably the headlight connector, and then right to the headlight. So I think what I would be inclined to do, simply because on this truck, I think I would rather go to this connector here and unplug it and see if our draw goes away, but we need to get a measurable draw first, just out of curiosity. Typically taking the headlight out of these Chevys is a difficult task, but apparently he told me he already broke the bottom bolt, so you just have to take the top ones out. So we're going to see if that's true and go that route just because it's simple, get us to that circuit and see what we can do from there. Nice part was the upper plastic piece here is busted in half too. Smells a little like frustration. So we're going to see if this thing does just wiggle out of here, which that would be fantastic. He said it was all busted on the bottom. Let me get a light. Usually you have to pull all this stuff off on these Chevys. It's real convenient. Oh yeah, she's broke all right. Both tabs are busted off the bottom. Yeah, the side of the headlight's busted out. I guess instead of making a mountain out of a molehill here, I can reach this connector. Just visual inspection here. Don't see anything right off, but I'm just going to unplug the turn signal to this left front light. And then we're just going to kind of pull this connector up. I'm going to substitute a known good bulb across this connector. This connector appears to be in good condition. I'm sure the ground is probably the black wire. I'm going to verify that. The blue wire with the white trace is going to be our turn signal wire. And then we're just going to, like I say, we're going to substitute a bulb here. I'm going to grab one out of the toolbox. Just a 194. Something light, really low current. we'll stick this little guy in there, and then we're going to kick the 4-ways on and see what happens. Some people might say, you know, why are we going here first? Well, simply in this instance, it's because it's easy. Somebody's already been here and busted everything. If they hadn't been, I'd have to look at the diagram. At that point, the BCM would be the easiest thing to get to. I would go there and I would verify our current draw is in the front circuit and not the rear circuit, which we may still have to end up doing. I just figured this is convenient, so let's get after it. Let me find out. Just want to find out. I'm sure I know that one is the turn. Pretty sure this one is the ground. Could be wrong. Doesn't matter if I am. Let's kick on the 4-ways. Alright, my back one is blinking. We got no action up here, so let's make darn two. I know I've got the right power wire. Blue, white. In case I do not have a good ground, let's just come here. So, yeah. Alright. So that tells us that our short is not in the light assembly. It's not in this section of harness from, you know, here to the light and the bulbs and all of that stuff. So now that we know that, I'm just going to take, probably off camera because it's a pain to kind of drag the camera around and look. I'm just going to kind of see where this harness goes that feeds this headlight. Looks like it goes down. Looks like it's pinched pretty hard under the washer jug. I think this truck might have some kind of lift. I don't know if it's got a body lift in it. It doesn't look right to me. It sits kind of funny. It's strut spacers or something, so maybe some wires are pulled tight and rubbed. I'm just going to kind of try to follow this visually without messing with a whole lot and see if I see anything. If not, then we're going to come up with another plan. So I followed that harness down and around, and despite looking like it's pinched real hard under the washer jug against some metal, kind of tweaked it back, didn't see anything. I followed up to this connector under the fuse box here, so I just, you know, lifted the fuse box up. It, obviously somebody has been here. It's pretty rough, a lot of corrosion and garbage here. This connector is the only one that actually popped off. Typically these sit down in the tray and then you put the fuse box on, but we're happy this one came off. I got the power probe out and we can see this wire blue with a white stripe. This goes up to the front light. We should have, I plugged that connector back in, so we should have a direct path to ground through the bulb, which we do. Let me turn this off. And if we apply power to this, that left light lights up. It lights up nice and bright. You can't see it, but however, if it was shorted, it would blow the circuit breaker in this. Like if we short this to ground, you know, it blows the circuit breaker. And then that'll reset here in a moment. So that resets. So we don't have a direct short to ground because we've got a nice bright light. So what I want to know now is if we reset, this is the circuit breaker I've got plugged inside the car, it's blowing right now. I'm going to reset that. I'm going to tick the turning signals back on, click turn signals back on, and if obviously we still have a short, it's from here to the body module. So let's kick them back on. Okay, we can't because obviously there's some kind of power supply that comes through this connector also. So I guess there's more than one way to skin a cat. We know that the short is not from here to the light, so that's good. We've eliminated that. It's from the body module to the box, or in the box, out of the box. So what we need to do is we need to find the other half of this light blue with white wire, and I'm going to see if I can do that without disturbing a ton here. She's pretty rough. Lots and lots of green. Just typical New York stuff. Maybe because we're missing our big main power. Let's, I see lots of blues and whites. I'm just going to take and set this box back in. And you know what? I guess it doesn't matter. We know we still have our short because we have to have, because it's not in this front half. So instead of trying to get power back to our box here, let's forget about that. I might have to take this out of the way here. We need to kind of turn this up and see if we can find the input where it comes into this box. I don't know why they use the box as a jumper. It must be for some other sub-models that utilize a function inside the fuse box, maybe for you know, ones with the turn signals in the mirrors, stuff like that. I'm not 100% sure, but I do know it goes in and comes out, and I believe it was on 2 different connectors. So I got all the connectors pulled off here. I believe these are our 2 harnesses, so we've already proved that this one is the one that goes to the front of the truck. Let's see here. Yep, that is our front light output, and I believe this is connector X4, and this is our input in, what do they consider, pin A1. So it's this pin here is where our input comes in from the body control module. So that is where our pin comes in from the body control module and then out to that front light. I think what we could do if we wanted to, we need to either prove or disprove the problem's in the box or the problem is in the harness leading up to the box. One way we can do that is we could actually just, we know this side is good, going out is good. We could just de-pin this pin coming in, which I think we could easily enough do. Eliminate the fuse box out of the source. It is just being used as a jumper. Let me grab a little pick here. I think we can pop that pin out. We can then plug our fuse box back in. And if the problem is still there, then we just plug this wire back in and we go from this section of wire to wherever it goes inside in the body module. Which I think, might have to get my readers on, as all the old guys say. Need my readers. There. So we've got that de-pinned, and that should be the input from the body module. Now, what we can do is we will very gingerly, because we don't want this to short and give us a false reading here. I'm just going to peel that back. I'm just going to stick it in the harness right now just so it doesn't touch anything metal. And then possibly so we can get to it, I'm going to stick these connectors down in the case here how they're supposed to be. And then I'm going to flip this around. When these systems are new and untouched, they work okay, but when your truck's been around the block a time or two and everything's kind of busted up, makes it a little more difficult. So anyways, we'll do the best we can, try to get it lined up here. Just like so. Our circuit breaker is reset. Let's go kick on the 4-ways. Four-ways are on, and it still blew the circuit breaker. So I guess, what do I guess? I guess we didn't find the problem, lady. I was hoping it was going to be in the box. And that should be the input. I don't know if we can verify that. Make darn tootin' I'm not screwed up on my diagram. Let's stick this on here. Let's reset the circuit breaker. Yep, okay, so we do have the right input, so that's a good thing, folks. Let's shut the circuit breaker, this back off so we know, or we should know. I guess what we could do, let's pop this back out, because we now know that wire, I don't know if you could see it on the power probe or not, but it was flickering it when the circuit breaker was reset until the circuit breaker blew. So that gives me a pretty good indication that we're on the right track wire-wise. I'm curious then, this is where it's kind of a pain in the neck. we can get these to unhook, because we need to put that wire back where we found it, put the lock back in it. And technically we can double prove that the short is not in here, because we're going to stick this back in the pin that it was in. I'll do that, and then I'm thinking we can hook up just this one connector, feed power into where this one goes into the box, and it should light up the light out there, technically. So let's just stick that right on here. They don't click in, so they just set in there. And then I'm gonna find pin number 2, or I'm sorry, pin number 1, which is right here. This should light up the light. And it does. So that lights up the front light on the car. So that tells us 100%, you know, which we've already proved, that the fuse box is not at fault. We need to stick this back. Pin number 1. Put the lock back in it. And carry on with our diag. Our problem is in this harness, back into the vehicle. There's a lot of chicken scratch under the dash. There's some aftermarket gizmos in there. I've been trying to kind of avoid going in there. I did give it a little visual inspection, didn't see any rubbage on any wires. So we've got that back in there where it belongs, right? Yeah, we're back on pin 1. I'm gonna leave this portion of it open. I see somebody has been in here. I see there is tape that's peeled off. Let's just, I mean, it would have to be, whatever we're looking for is shorted to ground. Our next step, I guess, is going to be unplug the body control module. I suppose we could have a dead short in the BCM. I wouldn't think so, but I suppose that's possible. That's probably the next best thing to do, the next easiest thing to do without opening up a bunch of harnesses and starting to look. We'll go into the dash visual inspection. We'll find the connector from the body control module that feeds this circuit out here. Like I said, you can tell somebody's been all over this baby. I don't see any chafage down here when I was looking, and if there is, most everything is plastic. So I'll give this another little look right here, but it should go straight into the vehicle. And we'll go in there, unplug the body module, leave this unplugged. We can use our power probe at that point. At that point, the circuit should be completely open, and there should be no short on it. So let's see if we can't figure that out. So just so we're all following along, park lamp signal, lower left, upper left. We know that this wire is good. We've unplugged it to this connector. We can, you know, supply it power, don't blow the fuse. We've gone to connector X1, pin A2. We've provided it power, it lights the light. And then we've gone and passed power all the way through the fuse box at X4, connector number, pin number 1, and it lights the light. However, taking, I don't have a different apparatus here, but taking this wire right here, this is the wire that we completely disconnected from the fuse box. Right here at this connector, we unplugged it and it still blew the fuse. So technically there should be nothing. These other circuits are for the ones with the outside mirror turning signals, which this vehicle doesn't have. We're not going to discount the fact that, you know, there may be some monkey business under there, but I say we got to go to connector X5, pin number 4 on the body control module, disconnect it, and see if there is still a short to ground. If there is, then well, we have to find it at that point. If there's not, then the problem has to be in the body control module. Here is connector X5. So this is the connector we're looking for on the body module, and pin number 4. So it's going to be right next to pin number 3, right before pin number 5. 25 pin. I don't know what color it is right offhand, but just to verify, pin 4, light blue, white, left front turn signal lamp supply voltage. So definitely the right one according to the diagram. I just like to look, see what colors are next to it. So it'll be next to, well, pin 4 is going to be right in the corner, light blue, white. Let's go find it. trying to get you guys where you can see. So I found the connector. Of course, like I say, it ain't pretty under this dash. There's a lot of hacking, whacking, chopping, cutting, splicing, dicing. Even the body module itself is just floating around here in outer space. I believe this is the right connector. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. Number 3 is empty. Number 4 has a light blue with white. I'm just going to verify that pin 1 is supposed to be yellow and pin 2 is green. I just want to make darn sure we're in the right connector before we go nuking something. So yellow, green, and 1. I'll be right back, folks. You stand by. Yep, 1 is yellow, 2 is dark green, 3 is blank. And then number 4, which is this one, which we have unplugged under the hood, so this should not be, there shouldn't be any connection here if we probe this little guy. And we have a direct short straight to ground, so this goes directly to ground. And it blows our circuit breaker instantly. So let this reset here, it's kind of loud and annoying. You're loud and annoying, power probe. We get it. There we go, she's reset. So that's interesting. Very interesting. Because according to the wire diagram, that just goes straight out, so we shouldn't be, well, I guess we got to kind of take that with a grain of salt. We got some blue and white here, man. People have been, God, I hate people. Did I just say that out loud on YouTube? You know, it's just a freaking bunch of hackery. Well, I think what I need to do is I need to explore the possibilities that the diagram is wrong and see where else potentially that this wire could go. According to our diagram, because we don't have the turn and signal mirrors, however this truck has aftermarket mirrors on it. According to the switch, I don't think it should have power extender, but you never know. People change doors and panels and parts and pieces. I'm going to explore the idea that this potentially could go somewhere else, check some other connectors to make sure that it doesn't. I'd hate to chase us to find out it's, you know, something shorted in the driver's side door harness here. That sure would be a shame. Looks like we've got a rogue wire. There's several rogue wires just kind of peeling around every which way. I'm going to do a little hokey pokey under here, see if we can see anything. I've got a light blue with white here. What in the thunder does that go to? Light blue with white, that goes to his trailer brake controller, right? That's interesting. And that goes to, must be the brake switch input. Okay. Just out of curiosity. I know it shouldn't even be related whatsoever. Technically. Where is it? This one. Oops, where are you? Okay, didn't change anything. I just wanted to be sure. I'm going to do some looking here, folks. We got to see if we can find it. So here's something pretty bizarre, folks. So I'm looking under the dash, and like I said, I double-checked per VIN to see what RPO codes this truck has. And it's got, I think, DL6, so just whatever that stood for. Power heated outside mirrors, no turn signals. Didn't have the option that was on the wiring diagram. So I was like, man, this is bizarre. But like I say, I wanted to kind of verify because, you know, kind of take with a grain of salt what the factory wiring diagrams say. Never trust a wiring diagram. So I just simply, this wire down here, our blue with white, I just started kind of tugging on it, following the wire up through, and technically it should go from here to out through the firewall. But indeed, I started kind of pulling on it, and I could stuff my head up under there, and I see the harness split and come back towards this outside fuse box. And sure as shit, that wire comes up through here into the back of this fuse box, which it's not supposed to unless it had the turn and signal mirror option, according to the factory diagram. So that blue and white wire comes here. And then we got to go look at a diagram now and see, I think it comes out on one of these connectors, and I'm just curious if there's a blue and white. I don't see a blue and white coming out. Yeah, right here, here's a blue and white coming out. I'm curious. I'm just going to unplug. I don't even know where this connector goes to. Because it has nothing to do with the fuse here. I'm just curious now. Let's take our power probe. I know you guys aren't optimal viewing range, but does that get rid of our short? Just out of curiosity. You bet your bacon it does. So if that gets rid of my short, if I plug this back in, does our short come back? It probably does. And I'm just curious if I cut the damn wire. So that's plugged back in. And we got a dead short back. Is this stupid thing wired for turn signal mirrors and somebody's been in the door and the wire's shorted or something in the door? 'Cause that's the only thing I could figure. Let's I got this connector kind of frigged up over here. Let's go get a diagram and have a look just to see if this is plausible that this is like it is, because it comes out in this connector. Let's just see if this blue with white is dead shorted on this one. Also, let's see. Yeah, so this blue with white is complete shorted to ground, and I'm curious. Let me just see what pin it is so we can look at our diagram. It is the B, row B. I think it's a B2 probably, yeah, because that goes down to B7, so I think it's this wire right there. B2. Let's go see if that matches our diagram. I tell you, some days cars just piss me off. Yep, look at that. B2. Son of a hooski. Because so this is for when the wire comes out of the body module and it goes down here and it splits. This is for cars with option code DL3, so Delta Lima 3 and Delta Papa November. So DPN DL3. And then it goes this way. And this one, as you can see by the minus sign, is for this wire and harness is for cars without that. Well, ours has option code DL8. 17-inch mirror, outside left, right, wide load, heated, 2-panel, blah, blah, blah. We do not have DL3 or DPN according to this VIN. These are the only D codes that we have according to the VIN, and particularly this one here for the mirror. So technically, we shouldn't even have this, but obviously we do. And it goes to the door lock switch driver's side. And we got to assume that all these wires are here now. Comes down. I'm going to tell you what, none of this matters because this does not even have an LED on the outside of the mirror, which is indicated right here that it could have. I'm not going to tear the whole door apart, but I'm going to show you what we're going to do. Stupid cars. Find a straight one. Do I got a straight one? There we go. We're going to see if we can't just go full Captain Caveman on this thing. Now we've got a red latch in there. Let's see if we can't get the latch unhooked. Okay, get the red latch out. Let's just see if we can't take this wire out, plug the rest of this crap in. So there's that wire. So there's our blue and white wire. We're going to take that right out. We're going to leave that out. Which way did this go? I forgot. This way? Yeah, sure. Let's plug this back in. Oops. Properly. If we can get it, because this is probably the rest of the door accessories. So we're going to take and leave this wire pigtailed out. Now, technically, we should not have a short here, which we don't, so I'm plugged in under the box. No short there. So now we should be able to plug the body module in the fuse box. And I'm betting we got turn signals. Fuse box is in. Breakers, I didn't put the light back in, it's still sitting there. Breakers reset. And then just to review, I had some company stuff in here for a minute. This is our circuit breaker where it hooks in there. Just in case you're wondering what this is. This is mine. That's where the circuit breaker hooks in place of the fuse. This, let me set this light down, give everybody vertigo. This is the single wire we depinned that clearly goes, you know, into this door. That technically shouldn't. And then I plugged the body module back in, and of course, like, you know, he's got all the extra wiring hanging down. Bada bing, bada boom. Just like that, fella. Logical deduction. We now got our blinker. And we got our blinker. That's it, folks. Show's over. Easy peasy. Well, that's the hard part, I suppose. Now the easy part, putting things back together. The nice thing is that somebody's already come through and broke everything. Busted connectors, cut wires. Sometimes that stuff frustrates me, but then sometimes it makes me happy because it makes things easier to get to. And then you can be kind of a slob just putting stuff back together because, well, I try not to. Try to make it a little better than I found it, but you know what I mean. I don't know what else to say. We just use some logic and some thinking and a little past experience of getting your ass kicked a time or two on a car, assuming the factory diagrams are correct and assuming the RPO options are correct and assuming that the wire can't go there because the diagram says it doesn't. That is the valuable information. I don't try to memorize it or understand it, why manufacturers do what they do. In my opinion, and this is strictly my opinion, I would assume that all of the Chevrolet trucks and GMC trucks would have that harness regardless if they had the mirror option. Simply because from a manufacturing standpoint, I would assume that would be easier to do than to make multiple different harnesses for multiple different RPO codes. I would think that they could manufacture the harness to fit all RPO codes, every single option, and then just have it there with, you know, blank ends. Like, well, it's there. This harness has 12 wires in it. On this end of it, we're only going to use 4 of them. So I would just think that would be easy and less confusing. And maybe that's the way it is, and maybe that's why we're having the problem that we're having. And it's my misinterpretation of wire diagrams. But anyhow, neither here nor there. All it's left to do is put some of the jiggly bits together here, folks. And then go upstairs and get us a 15 amp fuse, stick it in the hole, call it a day. Then we'll call this fella tomorrow, let him know that his truck is fixed. Oops. And that he didn't need a fuse box or any of the other crap they put in it. Where is the wire shorted? That's a great question. Somewhere between there and in the driver's door. To me, at this point, it doesn't matter because it's an option that runs through that door that's not used. It's like, say, somebody's been in this door in order to put the aftermarket mirrors on it. So I'm willing to bet if we took the time to take the door panel and stuff off, we would find where it's short, where there's a screw rubbed through it, where the wires were removed and they're pinched in the door. Perhaps someday at a later date, the other wires that are with it that are probably pinched to or screwed up will show up, but who knows. I'll see what the guy wants me to do and I'll tell him what we did and what we found. And I'm just gonna take and tape that harness, tape that wire on the harness in case at a further date somebody wants to add the mirrors with the turn signal options. I don't know. But what I want you to do, well, I'm waiting for that date to come, is to head on down to that comment section. Leave your questions, your comments, your concerns. While you're down there, subscribe, ring the bell, the Insta, the Facebook. And you know what to do, folks. Just remember, viewers, if I can do it, you can do it. Thanks for watching.